here again. Just wanted to pull up the portfolio sites that you recently submitted with new enhancements and that have been polished a little bit more since editing for the web last month. I'm going to give you a few notes, a little bit of feedback about how to move these in their next best direction. And so I've queued them all up in a browser window, and let's take a look at what you guys created. All right, so here we go. We're going to start off with the site of Savannah Ray. So the first thing that I see here is kind of just a very, beautifully clean, a nice relevant image here that that showcases your musical background and interests. But noticeably absent from this design is what we were looking at earlier with your personal brand. So like when you showed me your logo and your business card was very ornate, had a very sort of stylized scripted font to it. And here it's the opposite. Everything is very clean, and you use a sans serif font, and so just a discrepancy there between how you're styling in terms of logos and business cards and what we're seeing here on the site. So the goal would be to achieve consistency between both, so that you could have just one overall aesthetic that you're promoting. This color does seem to be what we saw on the business card, so there's some consistency achieved there. We've got your name up here, we've got navigation options, it seems, home, about, resume, projects, blog, and contact. A little bit of about me here on the home page. As I scroll, I've got an about me, my work, blog. So I'm wondering here just the best way to navigate this, because it seems like maybe there's just a little bit of teaser content in these areas, and then maybe full pages here. But let's poke around and take a look. So we've got a nice tagline here. Musician, Alaskan, simply me. You give us an idea about who you are and what you do. I'm going to go ahead and click the About Me just because I can. It does take me to an entirely different page with some more cool imagery. So to learn about your mission and your training. So to bring unique and creative outlook, to inspire and make a difference. So here, just a little bit of your backstory. I want just to really quickly highlight how hard it is to read this light blue text on a white background. And it's easy on a black, and even on a gray it's a little bit easier, right? But here on the white, it does not offer enough color contrast to be easily seen. So here we've got your business card, and it looks great, right? But I've shared some notes with you about the styling of this, but just want to highlight kind of the departure. Your colors are the same, but the styles, like you've given me this very clean font, but here it's very ornate. So I'd like to see more consistency, between these two things. Another thing that I wanted to note is that you've given me this very, a very detailed outline or silhouette of the state of Alaska. I mean, look at all these nooks and crannies, and it's very kind of realistic in terms of the actual shape of the land. Whereas you've given me kind of this more of an icon or like cartoon looking mic. So again, there's just like discrepancy in the styles. So we've got realistic, and then we've got, kind of, icon-ish or, cartoonish, clip artish looking elements here. So a bit of a disconnect with that. Let's jump back to your home page really quick and scroll down here. So we've got this little bit of text about you, and it kind of goes more into your work. So head over to the project page to find out more about the work that I've done. And you kind of, share it here: music, videography, website design, and graphic design. And we see kind of a little slideshow here. I'm going to click on this. So as I'm clicking on it, I thought maybe it would open up into a larger light box type effect so that I could see what was going on here in larger detail. But it's pretty small, right? I really would have to click on some of these to get a better idea, but I like that you've included a little bit of information here, amateur recording, so that I can kind of get a sense of what I'm looking at here. So photo album of graphic design projects. So that little bit of information gives me context to help me decide, what, if anything, I want to click on, as we go through your works page. Scrolling down, so she's blogging, keeping up with her schoolwork. So it says blog, and I guess this is the link to it. I can go off that way. We've got another cool photo of you here. It looks great. And then just where we can find you on social media. So it looks like all of these are linking out to various locations on the web. You use an alternate highlight color here. It's kind of like a red or a coral. Maybe there's some pink in there, but it's different from the blue that you supply, and it's not really seen anywhere on the site except as a hover effect. And my question is this intentional, and is that like another like contrasting color that you want to include, or is it just kind of accidental in that it was maybe part of the template for Weebly that you just didn't update? So would like to shed some light on that. I'm going to poke through these one by one now. So we went to the About page. Let's check out Resume. So here we've got your music resume, and it just talks about, kind of your background and education and performances. What I like to see here is that you have, aligned it in such a way that it's easily scannable. So you've used these headings and subheadings. Everything is aligned here on the left, kind of within this table or this grid that you've created. I'd like to see these dates also, because it looks a little off with having these aligned left and these aligned centered down here. But that page looks really nice. I'm going to go to projects now. So here we've got your music, and just it looks like some videos and things that you've done: videography, website design, graphic design. So I love that you've shared all of this. Each of these has kind of like the videos have a title. And they have your name in it, so if I didn't know you at all, I could guess maybe that it was you who was performing in this based on the titles. But for the videography, here, there's nothing that shows up, so I have no idea what I'm going to see here, and also like really no idea, did you film this? Were you just the, the creative director? Were you the editor as well? So this would be something that you would want to explain in more depth, because certainly there's a larger skill set being shown here if you're performing in it, if you're filming it, if you've conceptualized it, if you're editing it. Those are details that you'll want to share there. So here we've got website design, and it looks like these are screenshots of the site that you created. And I like that you've included the little bit of information over each of these screenshots. So I'm going to click on this one. It doesn't seem, I'm going to pause it. Actually, I'm going to pause it, and I'm going to go back. So here, I'm wondering, can I copy that? Okay, I can copy it straight from here. You might want to make this easier for somebody to go check out and see your site. So don't have this link right inside the slideshow where they have to pause it and copy it, paste it here. Give me a little bit of contextual information up here. Say that this was a site that I created as part of a school project, and if you'd like to visit the live site, check it out here. Here are some screenshots that show you, the extent of the work that was done. And so here we've got some of your graphic design work, and we've talked a little bit about this already. But it's a nice collection of work that you have here, but I think more details need to be supplied about the projects. On your blog, so here it links to your student work, which is great that you have chronicled this, but one thing I have noticed is it takes me away from this page on Weebly and over here. I'm wondering if there's a way that you can bring this in-house, right? So that like you can import these blog posts and have everything on Weebly, so that you're not having to go back and forth between different platforms. Last but not least, let's check out this contact page. So here we get a big departure in terms of color, and it's pretty loud. And this is a beautiful color, but it's a little harsh on the eyes depending upon its application. So I just want you to think about how you want to use this color in ways that enhance and not detract from the site. Overall, Sienna, you've got a lot of great content, and this is definitely a stronger iteration of your portfolio, and excited to see where it goes from here. Next up, we've got Ashley's site. So we have just a strong visual impact here: home, work, about, contact, and then a small little branding information over here in the corner. I'd like to see this branding information larger and for it to be consistent with that logo that you showcased earlier this month with the brain and the light bulb and the sort of block lettering because there's a big style discrepancy between what you presented there and what we see here. They look completely different. As we scroll down the page, we get a cool picture of you and then some information, you know, just a little bit about what you do, a little bit of background. Wondering why this word myself wraps here to this next line when there's so much space that it could fit up there. I just think there's some arbitrary line breaks going on here. So then you talk about, you know, kind of the work you're doing on your YouTube channel, but you give me this yucky gobbledygook URL that's just, you know, just a series of numbers and letters. What would happen if you just simply said, currently the editor for YouTube channel ATTV, and that this text alone was the link, right? You don't have to display this gobbledygook URL. Which you know is not a best practice for creating content for the web. We've got your mission statement, and again, another kind of weird line break here. It might be too long to fit, but I would maybe take care to break the line somewhere around here purposefully so that it's centered a little bit more nicely instead of having this dangler coming here. We've got a self-portrait. It says self-portrait Final Cut, which I know basically just means this is the file name. I'd like for this to have a meaningful title and perhaps a description so that I can take a look and have the information that I need to choose whether or not I want to go more in depth there. Scrolling down, we've got kind of this mixture of different portfolio things. I'm trying to click on it to see if it's a slideshow, but not quite sure how to interpret these elements that have all been like cut off. I don't know if this is one banner image, but it's gives me a moment of pause. I'm not sure how to interpret it. So get in touch. These are areas that I can connect with you online. It looks they are linking out to various things on other social media presence on the web, and then the contact me. So I'm going to go up and go through these pages one by one. So my work. So these are things, some of the things that you've done. You give me the option to contact. So Mousetrap, mini golf, some logo design. But what this is like a lot of information that's really kind of squished together here. Like, so each of these things, you can see kind of like as I'm dragging them off, I can see here underneath that you have said, oh, this is an ad for Mousetrap. This is a website for Real Deal Tacos. But because everything is so squished together, you really can't decipher where one ends and the other one begins. Each of these elements needs to be given more breathing room, and so that you can clearly see the differences between each of these projects and then choose which ones you want to go more in depth in. So right now this page looks like a jumble of things that need to be highlighted more individually instead of collectively in this big group, because you've got a lot of cool stuff, but it's hard to separate each project or each video from the other. I'm gonna click back up here and go to the About page. So here, just a fun little collage of you, a little bit about who you are, your education and experiences. Looks like there's some arbitrary spacing here. It just looks like not purposeful because we have these size line breaks and then these larger ones, and then a link back to your portfolio. So that's nice there. Jumping next over to contact, we just have a simple form. I'm wondering, do we need do we need a separate page for this? Is this something you can put in the footer? Because it's not like you share a ton of information or content on this page. Wondering if there's a way that you can consolidate that. Overall, this is a nice, clean template and platform for your work, but a little bit more thought needs to go into how you are bringing in that personal brand to be consistent with your styling and also showcasing your work. Next up, we've got Andrea's site, and so here, Fearless Expressions, and one of the things that we've seen is how closely tied Andrea's website is to the logo and the business card that we saw her previously submit. So this is a great example of how she's tying it from each element, and there's brand consistency from all of her marketing or promotional or support materials. So here on the homepage we've got a little bit about her, and then access to see her print, video, and other multimedia. We've got social media links here, so there's other places that we can connect with her. We're going to go next to the resume page. So let's see here, resume. Here it's just taking me to just a nice little short, streamlined collection of her experience, and then also like her education. So what I also like to see here is that this is all selectable text, and the reason that's important is that it shows that it's indexed by search engines, and so people can find Andrea and they can search, if they're searching for words like communication manager with graphic skills, they might stumble upon her. So this is why it's important to make sure that you're not including a picture of words as your resume or a screenshot of a print document as your resume, because you want these words to be able to be found by search engines. Jumping next to portfolio, let's go ahead and hit print first. So this is a collection of what she's done for that medium, and so we see here I like that she has included, that she created these things in Illustrator, and that this is not just for print, but this is a large trade show display, which there are different design needs and considerations. So it just shows diversity in her abilities. Let's go over to video and check out. So here we have each of her projects that she's sharing here. One thing I'll say is that you are being consistent with this font, but for any type of description, all caps is kind of hard. It's harder to read. So while for titles or high level links, the all caps is fine, but looking for kind of a more of an easier read would be to put this in just sentence case at this point. But I like that you've included each of this, little bit tidbits, so that we'll know, which or what these videos are about. And if I only have a few seconds or a few minutes, I'll know which ones, that I want to view. And then last but not least, we have the other. So banners, websites, all those things. Let's go ahead and take a look at this one, which is the website. So here we've got a full screenshot of this page, and from a graphic design standpoint, this is really strong, well balanced, lots of color contrast, looks beautiful. But I'd also like to see what this website actually looks like. So I'm trying to see if any of this is a link, and it doesn't seem like it. So anytime you're showcasing a website, what you've created is an interactive design, because it's something that people need to navigate through. And so to get the full kind of effect of what you created, and understanding that you can make user experience design considerations, you'll want someone to be able to poke through what it is that you've created. So maybe including the link there would also be great. Last but not least, let's jump over to bio. So here we have just a little bit about you and the contact. Now, I wouldn't say that it is completely intuitive, or that I thought, the contact information is going to be located under the bio page. So something to think about there. You want to make it easy for people to find you and contact you. Maybe bringing this bio page to the home page, because this site is about you and your work. It stands to reason that you can include this bio stuff on the home page, and then just have a separate page for contact. I know you provide the social media stuff here, but it just seems like that's an area that's missing in that respect. But overall, I would say that this is definitely a stronger version of your portfolio site, and it's getting more and more on brand. And this is actually something that I just noticed, and I'm going to note it, is that up here in this design aesthetic, you have completely solid dots, but over here with these design elements, you have some that are open. I don't know if that's an intentional departure from what you created here, but just something that I noticed. Overall, you do a really great job in branding yourself and presenting your work. And I'm happy to support you, and happy to see where all of this goes in its next best place. Next up, we've got the site of Alex, and so what's great here is that you give us all the information right up front, your name, your contact, everything, we've got it. But just to note that this is a total departure from what we saw on your logo and business card, which used kind of a scripted font to display just your initials. We didn't have your name on it at all, and it was pretty dark in terms of coloring and font and hard to read, and so this is quite a departure, and I'll say a positive one in terms of user experience and readability for sure. So here you tell us like that you do morning news, that you do videography, that you do guest reporting. This is a great snapshot of you just right up front. You know, it says like this is what you're into, and it's a very you know, a quick description and summary of just kind of the diversity of your work. So going next to biography, so just a little bit of about me and then a cool picture of you doing what you do. I like to see that you have really summarized this and streamlined it just to give us a taste. And then we've got kind of your work history here, and it's done in such a way that like with Andrea, it is going to be able to be indexed by search engines, and you provide links you know, to these shows just to kind of show the relevancy you know, of the work that you're doing in the industry and the visibility of you know, the projects that you're working on. This blue looks great against the black, and the white looks equally it gives equal pop, and so you've really done some nice work here on making this information more usable, and it's organized very beautifully. Going next to gallery, so here are just some pictures, right? I'm going to go ahead and select one, and then I just wanted to see if it was going to give me that extra information to tell me what it is that you were doing. So here we've got morning news, audio tech, and so you, by giving me those explanations, you're explaining kind of what I'm seeing and giving me more context to understand what you're sharing and why. Reel, so here is just, I can watch your channel and to see a little bit of your work, so all of this looks great. You know, you are giving me relevant content that supports, you know, your skill set and work in these areas. And then last but not least, we've got your contact. So here, just a simple contact form. I would argue that this gray is a little dark. If you could, you know, make that a little bit lighter, it would pop more on the page. Overall, this is a much stronger interpretation of your work and display of it. I'd like to maybe see if this is the direction that you're headed here, this reflected in your business card design as well. Last but not least, we've got the site of Matt Costas. So here, you know, Matt has a very kind of minimalist and you know, grayscale design that's offers a lot of color contrast, and it's easy to read and absorb. So we've got his logo up here and his name, and you know, we talked about this in terms of the usability of the design. So we have this iconic element that he's created, and then by putting the name instead of up here in the arch, laying it to the side here makes it more usable for the design space available in this website header, this horizontal kind of design area. So, you know, Matt, looking at this, one of the things I'll say is I'd like to see your name bigger. I'd like to see the text as big kind of as the height of this design element, because as is right now, it's even smaller than the links that are on the page here or in your navigation in terms of the size of the text. And so the visual hierarchy of this, you know, would demand for your name to be a little bit bigger, and then, you know, maybe even in a different font, because there's so much uniformity here. I like that you know, you carry a consistent aesthetic, but in certain places it would be nice to see some contrast, you know, to kind of to separate or delineate between the branding information and the navigational options here on this page. So we've got your social media, which is linking out to other places on the web. We've got this kind of grayed out area and a little bit about you with your background. Wondering about kind of what looks like arbitrary line breaks here. We have all this available space and within this container that you've created, but your content is only kind of smushed over here in this corner. Wondering why also none of it is centered within this window, right? Because it's even, you know, kind of aligned over here to the left. So, you know, your content should kind of fit pretty balanced within this kind of area that I'm drawing out here. Looking at what you've created here, you've got kind of like these headings and subheadings And it's in this font that looks pretty, it's condensed, or the letters are so close together that it makes it a little bit more difficult to read. For a single word, it's stylized and big enough that it's easy, but like for this amount of text, it's in fact a little bit difficult to read, especially in its all caps type display, or in its all caps version. So I would recommend with going something that's easier to read here in that area. I'm also like it's curious to me that the weight or the boldness of your body font is heavier than that of your headings and your subheadings, because really it would be the reverse. Like, so if you think about the usability of kind of this chunk of text, you think of it as kind of a speed bump or a stopping point where you want people to get the information really quick, but you've chosen a font that's hard to read and that's very light, and so my eyes kind of skip over this area and just go here. Another thing to kind of note is that you kind of occasionally and what seems like arbitrarily apply a drop shadow to things, and the drop shadow gives kind of a blurrier appearance to what is otherwise a fairly clean design. So I would think about your reasoning for that, and like what is the effect that you're trying to achieve there? What does the drop shadow bring, say, to this button or to your name up here, that you didn't apply it uniformly throughout? The other thing that we talked about last time is the idea of you kind of scrunching information like this down here. Web pages can scroll forever, so there's no reason why it needs to be so completely condensed here at the bottom of the page. Let's jump around to other spots and take a look at what you have to share here. So I'm going to go next to the About page. Or this is the About page. So what I would note here, Matt, is generally with web design, the logo or the branding information generally links back to the home page or the first page or the landing page. And right now, it seems like that's also the About page. So for me, in terms of navigation, it's okay to call your home page home, but it have information to be who you are or just about you. And so having this link that is not taking me anywhere else from where I initially landed is curious. I'm thinking, like, is this broken, right? I know that it's not because we talked about this, but something to think about. Jumping next to portfolio. So here we've got a collection of your work and a very different stylized design. You've introduced color in a way that we haven't seen elsewhere on the site, and what seems like kind of an interesting color scheme given your reliance on black and white. It seems like this palette is, it just seems kind of like a strange collection of colors given the design aesthetics that you previously established. And that, like, we have this full banner image where, like, on the home page, when we link back. I guess we're going to go back to the About page here. About page. We've got that full banner image and color versus here you're putting everything in kind of small containers. So it's just some inconsistencies within that aesthetic. So here I can choose photography or logo design, each one of these things. So let's just pick photography first. And it's going to take us to this page. It looks like we have a strange wrapping here, the Y. Not sure why that's jumping down to the next line there. And I see that you're using sort of orange to denote the photography. Just wondering about the choice to do that with the color and use it in that way. And again, kind of like the drop shadow, just in select areas. I would note that this font does seem different from this font kind of describing this image does seem different than this font, right? So just some inconsistencies there. I'm going to go over to posters and flyers, and so here so what I'm seeing, okay, I wanted to make sure that I could click on it and it would go to a larger display of that, because as is in this kind of container that you're putting this artwork in, it's cutting it off sort of arbitrarily. And as I'm clicking these forward arrows, it's giving me the next one, but like unless I click here in the middle, I don't get to see it in its sort of full, full grandeur. So I'm wondering if there's like some sort of direction that you can provide to people. Maybe it's up here, or maybe, it just seems like it's container within a container within a container, and I don't get to kind of see the full version of the artwork unless I stumble upon it. So the more that you can do to direct your audience to kind of the full version of that, I think would be better. I'm going to go back to portfolio and just select web design to see what we see here. So here just the websites themselves. If I click on it, it takes me to a screenshot and then the go-to link. I would maybe rename this that says visit website, and then that way people will know that they can actually go take a look at the interactive version of what it is that you've created. Back to portfolio, wanted to check out your video editing. So here's 3 samples, and so here kind of again a different design aesthetic. We've gone full screen again. So we've got my channel, and we've got this video and this one. And I mean I like the full screen versions, but it is a disconnect from what we're seeing before. And so like the way that you talk about included here are 3 samples of some of my work. Maybe that's an area that you're giving more information on the other slideshow pages to tell people how to navigate through to get the full screen version of what it is that you're seeing. I like that you've included a title and then also just kind of description so I can decide which of these I want to take a look at. Under contact, we've got a simple form, kind of a call to action. You've got your contact information down there in the footer, so that's nice. It's very simple, easy to navigate. And then blog, it looks like here these are all of your school projects. I like that you have included just this summary statement that says this is what you're doing for school assignments, and what you're sharing about your educational journey. I think that that's an important point to make when you're sharing your school blog on your kind of professional portfolio site. It's great for search engine optimization because you're constantly adding new rich, diverse content. You're chronicling the development of your skills, which I think is important. So overall, one of the things that we talked about last time was kind of just the condensed nature of all of this on the page. If you can look for ways to space this out a little bit more, I still think that would be a great idea. Overall, your work is very strong, and I look forward to continuing to see it, get to that next place, because our portfolios are a snapshot of time of where we are. They will never be done because theoretically you will always be doing better work, and that you will get better skills. And who you are now as a designer or a videographer or a social media strategist is likely going to change as you progress in your career. And so who you want to work with now, or the projects that you are proud of now, are going to change in time, and your portfolio should be constantly updated to reflect who you are at that moment and who you want to attract in terms of projects to work with. But I want to thank you guys for this hard work. I'm excited to see where you guys go from here.